Could the Dallas Cowboys really have 5 rookie starters in week 1? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. A couple programming notes. On Thursday, we will have our first crossover episode of the year. That is with, I know, it's crazy, with Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns. Make sure you tune in for that. And then on Friday, Landon, you and I are going to be discussing Cowboys-Browns Week 1. Cannot wait. Can't believe we're here.
A real football game. That's unbelievable. I can't believe it.
It is pretty crazy. But
I just looked up real quick. I just looked up and it's Wednesday of game week. That's just so incredible to like. It still is shocking every single time I see it.
It is no. It's wild. All right, let's get to your Twitter questions today. We have a mailbag episode, and let's start with this first one. We actually have several people ask us this question: how many rookie starters will the Dallas Cowboys have in week 1?
I think obviously we're gonna have a quick conversation about what are we calling a starter, right? So on the defensive side, it's difficult, right? Because these guys are all gonna play a lot, and there's like a group of 6 guys probably at the back end of the defensive roster that are not starters but will play heavily, right? Linebackers specifically and defensive linemen that are rotating in. So. But keeping all that in mind, even if you go by the depth chart that was released by the PR department of the Dallas Cowboys, there seems to be an indication that it could be as high as 5.
And I should mention, Mike McCarthy in today's press conference said that he signed off on all the stuff, and he said, yes, Leafu is going to be listed as a starter week 1.
So there you go. I mean, we've got basically 5 starters at this point. Nealand is the guy that it's going to be based on formation potentially.
I just don't care. Like, he's going to play starter snaps, right?
Exactly. He's definitely going to play starter snaps as a defensive end, and probably as many snaps as the other 2 defensive end, or at least close, right? I think 5 is the number. And it's funny that this question came up because this was something that I was thinking about last night, a little bit too, because it is a very high number of rookie starters for a team that has, aspirations for postseason play. But I do think that this, look, this is kind of what we've talked about, is that it may be in a smaller scale, but this is going to be a young team to start the season. Like, this is, they are leaning heavily on this rookie class to come in and put in significant snaps on both sides of the ball. So, there's a very good chance that this Cowboys team might take some lumps early as it's kind of learning its way. Like whatever it is, like an eighth of their starters are potentially rookies. So, I think it's a situation in which they have to be careful of making sure not putting them in situations that they're over their head, and giving them very clear assignments so they're not kind of confused. Just by the speed of the game, and it's an away game. It's in Cleveland, so it can be tough for rookies. They just need to make sure that they are giving them proper guidance, and especially with such a high number of rookies.
So we don't know how these rookies are going to turn out, right? Like, the hope is if you're starting 5 rookies, 3 of them become like long-term starters, right? And just to be clear, Tyler Guyton, Marshall Nealand, Cooper Beebe, Maurice Leafu, and then Kalen Carson, who's filling in for Deron Bland. I tried to go back and think of the last time the Cowboys had 5 or more rookies start in week 1. And the only one that I could come back to was 2020. They had CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs. I don't know if Neville Gallimore started that season.
Probably not, but
Tyler
he played snaps.
Yeah, Tyler Biotish did start,
Mhm,
and then you
mhm.
had Terrence Steele, who was an undrafted rookie free
That's
agent,
right.
starting at
Yeah.
right tackle. So that's probably the last time they've been somewhat close to that number, I have to assume.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, if we're gonna be fair, like, I would say that 3 of these guys were probably penciled in as starters, right? With going into training camp for the regular season, and since what happened with ever through preseason and training camp, we've had to add 2 more because of injuries or whatever
Yeah.
situation. So, yeah, I mean, clearly they had a plan to play at least 3 rookies heavily going into training camp, and now because of whatever else has happened, it's going to be 5, and really it may be more than that, just as far as who's actually getting play. But I think as far as guys that are definitely going to be playing and playing a lion's share of the snaps for that position,
Yeah.
uh, 5 guys are going to be playing heavily, despite their youth.
I wanted to talk about Tyler Guyton really quickly because our good friend John Owning actually put out a poll yesterday, I believe, was
Yeah.
how many pressures do we expect Tyler Guyton to give up? And I don't remember the groupings exactly, but it was like 0 to 3,
3.
4 to 5, 6 to 8, and more than that.
That's right.
I guess 6 to 8, and it's not necessarily because I think he's going to have a horrendous game, but I wonder if the Cowboys are going to try to have a lot of short passes in this game to kind of maybe try to take away some of the pass rush, right?
Mhm.
And maybe he gets beaten quickly by Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. But I guess I won't be shocked, Landon, if the Cowboys are throwing the ball 40 plus times in this game.
I ended up taking the number just beneath the tier beneath that.
It
And
might
I
have been
think
like 3 to 5. I think it might.
I think
That
3
was
to 5
yeah,
and then 5 to 8 or something like that. John's got to
six
come
to
out and
eight.
give us the
Yeah,
tiers, whatever it was.
yeah,
Yeah. But I think similar situations that I do think that they're going to want to run the ball a lot. I do think when they're going to pass the ball that it's likely to be a lot of short pass stuff, right? RPO stuff, just to kind of, at least especially early, right? Just to kind of see if they can get away with it, if it's effective, if they can move the ball doing that. I think the key would be, hey, let's see how far we can go without really putting Dak into harm's way by deep 7-step drops,
you
that
don't
sort
want
of
to
thing.
expose him in this game. It's a
Yeah.
first start against arguably the best pass rusher in the league. Like let's try to
I
like ease him into this, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of first down passing would be helpful. Just what you don't want to do is get into situations where it's an easy passing. It's funny. It's a lot like what I don't know if you saw that. Was it Roquan Smith who got
I
asked by
did. I
someone?
actually, I'm glad that you brought this up. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think it was an interesting answer by Roquan Smith. They asked him like, "What's the best way to stop
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes?" I still said
Yeah.
Peyton Manning. And he said basically what you need to do is make him one dimensional, and everyone kind of hemmed and hawed like, "Oh, you want to make Patrick Mahomes one dimensional?" But the truth of the matter is that Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, like
Right.
he's Superman. But I think when you force a team to throw the ball like because they have to throw the ball in order to move, it gives your defense an advantage because obviously they know what's
Yes.
coming. They can, send out a better pass defense. They can attack the quarterback a lot easier. I think that those things, make a difference, especially how much your quarterback is being hit, right? So
Roquan's
I-
not saying we need to stop the run first, right? And then,
no,
we're more concerned about the run than Patrick Mahomes. What he's saying is stop the run so we can rush Patrick Mahomes when we know he's going to pass
and
the
hit him.
ball.
Yeah, and
Yes.
hit him. That's the thing, right?
Yes.
Is like you can't. It's harder to hit a quarterback. I mean, just generally when he's throwing on first down because you have run responsibilities. You don't
Yeah.
know if it's going to be a run or pass, right? And so it just makes it easier on a defense when you are in a obvious passing situation to be able to pin your ears back and go hit the quarterback. And and the reason this is related to the Cowboys is because this is the kind of situation, this is the kind of passing situation that I think the Cowboys should be avoiding as much as they can, at least early on, right? And just seeing if they can do RPO stuff, quick passes like you suggest, just to kind of get the ball out in the pass game, but without exposing Dak to deeper drops that expose, Guyton to more opportunities to lose to Myles Garrett. So I think that's what we're going to be looking at. It's not that they'll avoid passing. It's that they'll be smart about how they're deploying the passing system and not doing a bunch of deep drops until, unfortunately, if they get behind, they absolutely have to do so.
I'm really excited to watch this rookie class. I will have to warn you, starting 5 rookies means that there could be a lot of mental mistakes. It could be sloppy football, but the hope is these rookies, by the time you get to November and December, are going to be, significantly better than where they are right now in early September.
Yes.
So keep the expectations low. Let's get through this game, and then we'll discuss kind of their trajectory moving forward. All right, Lane, let's talk about the running back by committee situation. My favorite thing to talk about in the world, running backs. Can't wait. Let's get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel over the last couple of weeks, America's #1 sportsbook. It's where I go to make all my bets on the NFL season, which, by the way, there's so many great lines and odds on FanDuel. Go check them all out. But we have something a little bit different for you this week. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you're going to be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. Like me, a Cowboy fan living in Pennsylvania, I've needed Sunday Ticket my entire life to watch the Cowboys. Now you can get a free 3-week trial. All you need to do is go have a current form of payment and a Google account, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Now go check out the new Locked On NFL show. It's 2 shows every single day. In the morning, you get Tyler Rowland, the madman, kicking you off with some great NFL coverage. And then in the afternoon, stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen at the new Locked On NFL show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, we're back here answering your mailbag questions, and this one comes from our good friend Sigmund Bloom, who wants us to discuss the running back by committee situation. There have been a couple tweets about what this is going to look like, including one tweet from Patrick Walker, who suggested that the Cowboys running back by committee is really going to be based on the hot hand and the matchups. Some games it might be Zeke. Some games it might be Rico Dowdle getting the big workload here. Do you agree with that, or do you think it'll be more of a set role? This is what Rico's doing each week. This is what Zeke's doing each week. How do you think this is going to play out?
I mean, I love Patrick, and I think he's one of the sharpest guys over there to listen to with DallasCowboys.com. I don't, and I think that that's probably what is being said around the building over there.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
I will believe it when I see it. To me, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm not coming off of them. I think it is going to be a running back by committee situation. I will say that, but I think that Rico Dowdle is going to be clearly the #1 touch getter in this backfield.
Now, Zeke was named the starter by Mike McCarthy today. Does that change your opinions at all?
Nope.
No, it doesn't either.
Nope. I see where the money is. I see, saying like, and I'll pull out another interesting thing too. I was listening to Brian Broaddus talk about this on, I think it was Vox show, about how, he struggled with it because he said, every time, like when you go out there with the ones, who's out there running with the ones, the running back situation, it's Zeke. It's Zeke who's out there with the ones. But I would point out that when the twos go out there, have you ever seen Rico Dowdle out there with the twos? Because I don't remember ever seeing Rico Dowdle with the twos. No. So to me, this is a situation where they're rotating these guys in training camp, giving them all kinds of touches. But I have to believe that, just based on what we've seen, based on what we saw last year, based on just logic, I would have a hard time believing that Rico Dowdle isn't the guy that they're planning to focus this running game around, and that everything around him in Cooks, in Zeke, in Vaughn too as well, these are all support pieces for Dowdle, right? Who ultimately is the guy that can do all the things that you want. He can be he's probably the most explosive back you've got. He's probably the most complete back you've got. He's, tied for being one of the most powerful backs you've got. And he's younger than almost everybody except for Deuce Vaughn. So I just feel like there's too much obvious evidence that points to Rico Dowdle getting a very clear runway to be the running back A in a running back by committee situation. So that's my guess. We'll see how it all turns out. But as much as they can do all the fluff they want, they can put Zeke on all the posters they want. They can make him, super special running back extraordinaire on whatever list they want. I want to see who's getting the carries when we line up against Cleveland. That's going to tell me what the truth is.
I tend to agree with you. I think even if you look at like Mike McCarthy's history, he generally will have one guy that gets the lion's share of the work, and then there'll be another guy that rotates in. I could see a possibility where there's a couple games where one running back makes way more sense than the other, and they just kind of ride that guy. And honestly, maybe week one it's Zeke, because this is probably as fresh as he's going to be. And because you're starting two rookie offensive linemen against the best pass rush in the league, maybe this is when you just have Zeke on the field a little bit more, right? And I think that makes total sense. But I think once we get into kind of like the dog days of the season, right? We get into middle November. I just have a hard time believing it's going to be anybody but Rico Dowdle as long as he's healthy, because as you mentioned, he's their most talented runner. He's got the most size outside of Zeke. I kind of think it has to be him, right?
Look at the skill sets of these guys.
Yeah.
Just take the nameplates away. Which one of these guys seems like the best at being a role-playing running back? It's Zeke, right? Like Zeke is the best guy to deploy on third down because he's the best pass protector. Zeke is the best guy to deploy on short yardage because that's what he excels at. Goal line, short yardage, third down, pass blocking as an outlet. Like, because I listen, you can say what you want about Zeke, but Zeke can catch a pass out in the flat and break a tackle and pick up 4 or 5 yards when you need it, right? To me, like, it's again, like, just look at what the skill sets of these players are currently, right? Yeah. What Zeke does well lines up beautifully with a short yardage third down alternate back to the guy that is the running back between the 20s that you're going to have, which is, Rico Dowdle.
Now, I think there is a way that this turns into a full-blown committee. And to me, that's if Rico gets hurt. Like if Rico misses 4 games with an ankle injury, I just don't see any way where Zeke's getting 18 touches in a game. Maybe that's when you bring up Dalvin Cook, and maybe that's when Deuce Vaughn is getting more work in the passing game. But like, as long as Rico is healthy, I have a really hard time believing that he's not going to be the leading touch getter on this offense.
Let's put it this way. Like, if Rico's healthy, I would say that 3 out of 4 games, just generally speaking, he is going to be the touch leader of the running back.
I would agree.
Right? There's probably going to be specific games in which maybe you'll give Vaughn more touches, or maybe you'll give Zeke more touches, as you said. But I would say that they are obfuscating the truth here by not being fully truthful, which is, yes, I do think it is a game-by-game basis situation. I do think an opponent is going to have an effect, but I think we all know that the default situation that we're going into is that Rico will get the heavier share of the touches.
And as it should be. Again, he's their most talented running back. He gives them the best chance to win. Again, I won't panic if it's after week 1 and it's Zeke that's on the field 65% of the snaps, because I do think you can make the case that maybe this is the right game for him. But I don't anticipate it being that way all season long. And I don't think you would either, right?
No, absolutely not.
No. All right, let's get to one more question, including who will be the biggest X factor for the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. We will give you our answers next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Again, every day is on Thursday's show. We will have a crossover edition of the Locked On Cowboys podcast with Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns. You won't want to miss that. But Landon, let's finish up here with a question from Jack, who wants to know, who are the biggest X factors for the Cowboys on Sunday?
Well, I wasn't exactly sure how Jack wanted us to answer this question, so I've come up with a couple different things. First off, I think one of the biggest X factors in this game is going to be Jack Conklin, right? He's coming in and he's going to have to play left tackle for the first time since college, and he's having to do so after recovering from give me the list again: MCL, PCL,
Meniscus,
maybe an ACL,
right? ACL. It's all of them.
All of them. So all the L's. He took a huge L on all the L's, and he's having to come back in a week 1 match to face Micah Parsons, which, look, I mean, we've been spending the entire offseason talking about this matchup of Tyler Guyton and Myles Garrett, and that is going to be a doozy to say the least. I don't know if I'm a Browns fan that I'm liking this Jack Conklin versus Micah Parsons on the left side matchup either.
Let me say this. So Jedrick Wills, who is their first round pick from Alabama, I believe back in the 2020 draft now. I don't remember.
That sounds right.
He's missed all offseason with an injury. He actually practiced today, and Kevin Stefanski said, it's still up in the air who's starting at left tackle. Jedrick Wills just came out and said he's not starting this week. So there you go.
Yeah. There you go. So
I will say Browns fans, for the ones that I talked to, are very excited about that because they are that down on Jedrick Wills, but it's still a NFL right tackle making the switch over to left tackle after a major injury. Conklin's a really good player. You do worry what it's going to look like his first start on the left side
against Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the thing is, for all the stuff that we talked about with Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons is on that tier. The top tier. So I think it's going to be a very difficult situation for Conklin as well. And I think, like you and I had talked about, this is a situation where you have a quarterback who already holds on, and Watson I'm talking about. Yeah. This is a situation where you already have a quarterback who holds on to the ball entirely too long. That's been his issue for a long time. So if the Cowboys are able to get quick pressure on a left tackle that is not, used to playing that side, is also coming off of major injuries, and was not even their first choice necessarily to be the starter at the spot. It may not be quite the degree of the Guyton Garrett matchup, but it's still pretty ugly, for the Browns as far as matchups go. So I really do think that could be a situation where if he's able to attack Watson, that Parsons could really shut down this offense, early in this game.
Yeah, for me, it's Brandon Aubrey. It's actually the battle of the two kickers. So the Browns acquired Dustin Hopkins last year from the Chargers, and he was amazing. I think he led the NFL in game-winning kicks. I mean, he was just. It's been a long time since the Browns have had a good kicker, right? And to have Dustin Hopkins has been a really big weapon for them because they play in so many bad weather games. They play outdoors all the time, and they play in a lot of close games. And having a reliable kicker has been incredible for them. He's very, very questionable to play in this game. That's a big deal because, again, they've won so many games with him last year. In a game that you and I we're going to do our preview show on Friday, but we think this is going to be a very close, competitive game that probably comes down to a score, right? Maybe even a field goal.
Yep.
If Brandon Aubrey can have a typical Brandon Aubrey game and make the kicks that he's supposed to make, right? And not only the kicks, but also in the kickoff game, right?
Yes.
Don't kick the ball out of the bounds. Don't kick it into the back of the end zone. If Aubrey can have a usual Brandon Aubrey game, I think I would pick the Cowboys to win just because I think the Cowboys will have a big kicking advantage, not only a special teams advantage, but a big kicking advantage against Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it on Friday for sure, but I just think We've talked about how this could very well be a very defensive matchup. It's a first game of the year. You've
Yep.
got one of the quarterbacks who's coming off of major shoulder surgery, hasn't really thrown the football in any kind of live action yet.
Nope.
You've got the matchups at the left tackle position for both teams that we just talked about. Both teams have very, very strong defenses.
Yeah.
And both teams are going to be going into this game with kind of a struggling or questionable running game, right? Nick
Yep.
Chubb is obviously out for the Browns. But for the Cowboys, we're still trying to find our way, as well as having 2 rookie offensive linemen up front. So there's a lot that could be kind of disjointed about these offenses, again, throughout really the whole game. And because, like we said, no preseason, all those things are factoring in. This is all a very, very long-winded way of saying, you have got to make the most of your opportunities when you get on the other side of when you get into the opponent's side of the field. Like if you're getting there, you've got to come away with points. And even if that isn't touchdowns, you got to be able to get field goals, especially because eventually these offenses will figure it out, and then suddenly there will be an offensive explosion. But if you're gonna keep pace, you got to be able to score points when you get into your opponent's side of the field. That's going to be huge on Brandon Aubrey. Even if the Cowboys are still trying to sort out how to get into the end zone, that they're still able to come away with points while they're on the road, while they're still kind of sorting out the how to get things moving, pierce the red zone, get into the end zone, because that's probably going to be the last bit of the offense that kind of sorts itself out.
And it's a big field position game. If you kick a field goal from the 32-yard line and you miss, and all of a sudden Cleveland's got excellent field position going the other way, it's very detrimental for your chances of winning this game. So keep an eye on Brandon Aubrey. If he goes 2 for 2 and is excellent in the kickoff game, I think the Cowboys have a very good chance to win on Sunday. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. Go check out the Locked On NFL show for your second listen. Tyler Rowland, Tony Wiggins, they do absolutely fantastic jobs over there. 2 shows every single day. Go download the Locked On Cowboys podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Go check us out on YouTube as well. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosier, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.